something that someone wanted to show at school. So I'm going to hand the camera over. So we're running 110 to a switch, and then we're going to add an outlet up here, all exterior box. We saved you the boredom of running the conduit. That should be relatively self-explanatory. The breaker is not installed yet, so it is here. This will be the last thing we do, so we know for a fact that everything we're working on right now is dead. Right? So, that being said.
Importance of not getting zapped.
Yes. Importance of not getting zapped it is. So what we got already run is the switch. So this is a classic 110 low voltage. We're using Romex. Before anyone whines about it, I had the Romex. Parker gets really hot, so I'm running Romex in conduit just as an extra precaution because it gets kind of stormy and rainy here. So I'd rather get something sorry because I'm not around the corner to fix it.
Currently, lots of wind.
Yeah, lots of wind and dust today. So what you got is your switch. When you wire a switch, you're going to interrupt the hot wire. The hot wire is black. Electricity is fast, right? So electricity travels down the black line. It's going to get the gold every time because it is fast. The neutral is return. White is neutral. So it doesn't matter how you do it. Electricity is blind, right? So for humans, we wire them this way. We wire them this way because even if you're colorblind, you can tell between white and black, right? But electricity is fast, and it comes in on the black line, and that means it's going to get the gold on every one of your outlets. Anytime you wire an outlet, you will notice this. Gold, silver. You can remember silver goes to white. Green is going to be your ground and house electrical. But gold metal in a race, that's going to be your line power. So however it's wired from your breaker, it's coming in hot and fast on your load side, which regularly is black. So we've already, this is from the breaker, which we've identified as disconnected. We're going to interrupt the black, right? And then we're going to keep the neutral and the ground continuing up to our outlet. Most connectors these days, as long as your gauge is correct for Romex, will push in. You will see right here, there is your strip depth, right? So you strip your wire, every outlet will have it on there. Well, not every, most decent outlet, Levitons, that kind of stuff, right here. Strip gauge tells you how far back to strip your wire if you're going to use these ports. Otherwise, if it's a larger gauge wire or Romex, you go in the sides. If you're not going to use the sides, I recommend screwing these down from the standpoint if you reach in there at some point in the future and you're unfortunate, you're going to feel a little tickle, right? But if these are screwed in, less chance of glancing across them in the future. Everyone's safe. It's, you know, kind of just like a professional thing to do to make it a little bit better and a little safer. Which there are some in my family that debate I ignore certain safety protocols, which is frankly rude. But anyway,
We're not going to talk about that.
We're not going to talk about that right now. Anyway, right, so we've already landed our black wire into hot. So both of these are going to be hot. That should continue through. Well, just for the sake of easy argument, we're going to verify that. Right, so we'll go back to our ohm setting. Right. Any ohm meter you're using will always read infinity, and you verify your meter is accurate by connecting your leads. Right, that's how you tell that this meter is live and working correctly. So when we plumb in to these two, which we don't see, and I hate it. Oh, just gotta switch it up. No.
You want to take it down to 20K?
No. So we've already verified that the switch works, and I probably just landed that on the wrong side of this switch because every switch is a little different. On, off. So what I'm going to do is cut that and re-land it on this side. Otherwise, later on, I'd be wondering, man, why don't this switch work? Years of practice and raw talent means I don't have to use the depth gauge really anymore. I got a pretty good feel for where it's going to land. I put a piggyback for the ground here because on a regular outlet like you saw, we would be able to land both grounds. I do this so there's a little flexibility because I'm going to tie 3 grounds together basically. So we're going to come in on this side of the outlet. Like I said, we've already identified which is on and which is off, so a standard outlet down is right We're gonna land this side. Get them in there good. We're gonna use a wire nut, and we're gonna wire nut these 3 grounds together. Wire nuts are typically denoted by their color for size. Grounds, a lot of people will just use a crimp clamp, right? So they'll just crimp them together. Now pardon the editing on this, because this YouTube is a hobby and I'm not doing this professionally, nor am I giving any guarantees, implied or expressed. But this is a really basic, right? You give it a tug, make sure all of them are landing. Oh, see, that one was loose. So back it back off. See, because it's a shorty. Back it back off, get them all about level. You can even give them a twist with your pliers if you want. If you're being stubborn, get back in there, get them all, and then give it nice good twists. And the steel inside the wire nut is going to bite down on those, and it's going to hold it. Automotive applications, you'd use a wire crimp because it moves a lot. This should never move. Okay, we're all happy with that. We're going to take our white here. Strip back a little bit more of this outer sheathing, just for flexibility purposes. Deborah doesn't watch this video. She feels I'm a tad too attached to this razor knife. So these are our neutrals. Neutral is return to the power grid. It's a difficult concept to understand, but it's really quite ingenious. So these are back to ground, right? So power's coming in hot. You're gonna use whatever you use up here on your outlet, and then whatever doesn't get used comes out the other side of the outlet on the smaller prong and goes back up to the power wires. That's how you get a power grid, if that makes sense. Which it most likely doesn't, because it's complicated as hell to understand. It's not complicated to understand, it's just hard to conceptualize. All right, so this is not a step you need to do, but you can do it, right? So we're gonna verify, right, that our switch is working, right? On, off. Okay, so this is the top side of the switch, so we know we're not reading anything there. Now, if we've done that correctly, when Alec flips the switch, right, so we've got a good connection going all the way up to where we're going. So now we're going to finish wiring up the outlet, and we're going to put it all together, and I guess we're going to test it. Tuck it all back in while it's cold, as to not get shocked. We bought outside strips, which I will not bore everyone with that detail, but for the purpose of having this in there when I go over to the breaker and it's not just floundering around. Okay. Now for your outlets. Ground, hot, neutral. Ground, hot, neutral. So when you wire these, you're going to bring power in, right? And it's designed that you could piggy but just jump right through it and go out the bottom. So you always stay on the same sides that you're doing it, right? So if you come in on the top, you put the neutral on the top. You can't work on them like this. They won't work right. But the power transfers between the two, so you always stay on the same level. So since we're only doing one up here, and we're not going out the top, we're going to go gold, gets black, silver, gets white, and we're going to farm our little grounder guy here down over to this little green guy. We've already put our sweet little bend in it using our needle nose. You cinch this down so it's good and tight, it doesn't go anywhere. Tuck up your excess in case in the future you ever do want to add something or whatnot. There's a little extra Romex and you don't have to restring the entire thing. And we're doing a switch, A, because it was requested, but B, because it's an exterior And this is going to be used for extension cords in the yard or like string lights or something. So you're not going to want to leave power on just wildly if you got an extension cord. So it's on a switch, so you can cut it off and kill whatever's plugged in there. And the person that lives here is vertically challenged, so
That is fact.
plugging in and out would be a little bit more difficult. And if there's kids around, as opposed to them just coming and jamming things in a breaker or in a plug, we put it up higher. Less chance of flooding, the dogs running into it, whatever. You can kill the power to it, do whatever you want. A switch is a very, as you've seen, a very quick install in between. All right, so we pulled the wire all the way. Like I said, here's your standard house breaker. It's got a foot. The foot, the latch here on the plastic side, and the steel side, the metal pole goes in here, and that is what makes the breaker hot. So right now this breaker is not anything, it's just hanging out. So this is your neutral bar, right? So that's where your white's going to go. We've added a ground to this box because they're frankly so far away from where the power and stuff came in. So you land your greens over there, and because it's the right thing to do, we're going to go hit the breaker on the main before we start rooting around in there, because what's coming in is line power, and that's big voltage out on the main box. Again, if you give the edit cover plate, you can write what's what on here, right? And that's what these are for. But that front, as you can see, is very old and nothing is marked correctly. So every time we do something, it's a guessing game. So you're going to strip back your black, right? And you're going to land that in the screw side of your breaker. Okay. Get it cinched down good and tight. We have the fan as a test to know that our power's off, so that when I stick my hand in here, I'm not going to get a good old zap. Right? You can, because there's nothing to it, we're going to share a ground, or try to share a ground.
Is there even room?
If there's even room, which is always a challenge with boxes. So, up and down the other grounds. Cinch it down good and tight. There's no way that you would want to have your hands in there and give that the old college try if this was hot, because you'd be taking the breakers out on the main are 50 and 60s. If I got hit with 60 of line power off of one of those poles, 60 amp, I'd know about it. Probably make for interesting TV because my hand would be staring at it. And I'd be picking 300 pounds up off the ground. And that's best case scenario if I didn't just stop my heart. So even though it's lower voltage, it always pays to take electricity very seriously because it's freaking invisible. You know, never made sense to me why we have flat-headed screws for outlet covers when the plugs are flatheads, and that flat-headed screw fits perfectly in those things. Pretty sure it's some sort of a Darwinistic test. Okay, there you go. Neutral's connected, ground's connected. Our spare wire, in case we ever need to do anything in the future, we just give that a little curl up and out of the way. We take our foot, we put it in the little slot there, right, and then you just teeter-totter it over.
Did that thing look like it came loose?
It did come loose. That's why we can't have it outside. Bob Deal is this old house, it ain't.
Oh.
Yeah, see, had I done that and that was live, it'd be a much different video. Pretty sure they'd demonetize that one.
Getting demonetized requires you get monetized first.
Oh, that's a good point. That's a very good point. Alright, well, there you go. That should not be free, but the little tabbies just broke off there, which is going to be another video to fix that before we turn the power on. But that's it electrically in a nutshell. That will work when we get out there. We're going to fix this pole before we turn the power back on, and that does stuff.
Perfect.